Okay. Good morning, Morgrim. We are going to be going through a couple different areas of scripture today. Um, so we have our verse of the day. Excuse me. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. And again, I know that feels like a kind of a weird verse of the day, but remember, verse of the day, it should encourage you to dive in deeper. It shouldn't just be, always be a one liner that's just like, ooh, so awe inspiring. No, like, you need to be encouraged to dive in deeper to scripture and better understand it. And today, that's kind of one of those verses. It's like, what? So, we're going to dive into that here in just a moment. Our passage of the day is: throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. So we're going to spend some time in Ephesians chapter 4 as well. So our topic this week, again, is identity. We are in day 3 of focusing on identity in our Healthy You series. So we've had some incredible discussions, some incredible study on what it means to identify as a child of God. And that is the identity that we are talking about. When you give your life to God, when you entrust yourself to Christ, you take on a new identity. You are no longer identified as the world would identify you. And if you missed that message, yesterday we went through a study in Gilded, and our Bible study devotional is in the channel. You can look at that on our blog, or you can do !blog and see the link there. But we dove into that a bit, and we're called to take on this new identity as a child of God, and we need to be learning and growing in what that means. What does that mean? What does that look like? How do we do that? We need to put off our old self and really take on this new identity and make it our identity, live in that identity, be that identity as a child of God. And in order to do that, we have to know, what does that mean? What does that look like? So we're just diving in a little bit to that this week. And again, I just want to put out there, I just kind of feel in my heart to put this out there, that these studies are not like all encompassing, right? Like we're just barely touching the surface of each of these topics that we talk about. And I just encourage that, when we're done each day, that you dive in deeper. And if you have other questions, if you have, something else that you have on your heart that you're like, what, I need to understand that more. Like, for me, dive into it. Dive into scripture. Don't use this as your only time to spend in scripture and to spend with God. I encourage you to dive in and spend some time with God on your own as well. It's so important, so important, having that personal time with God in His Word. So I love you guys being here, and I encourage that. Hiccup, sorry. And we're called to spend time together, worshiping together, learning together, growing together, being a family in Christ, right? But we're also called to have that personal time, that personal relationship, that one-on-one experience between you and God as well. So I just encourage that you make sure that you're getting both. It makes all the difference in the world when you take the time to spend with God. Okay, so I've been really enjoying reading out of my Jesus-centered Bible this week. It's been a cool focus to get to do that. So I think I'm going to stick with that this morning. So if you're unfamiliar with the different Bibles that I use in my channel, there's there's a panel that says Bibles I use, and you can check out the Jesus-centered Bible is the one that I'm reading out of right now. It's in the NLT translation, which I don't really, it's not like my go-to, but it's been a good one to go through this week. I've enjoyed it. So we are going to jump over to John chapter 15. This one doesn't have all my tabs. I'm not used to this one, so give me a second as I find it. So John chapter 15. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Man, and John is one of those books that, oh man, if you have not read the Gospels, I encourage you to dive into that, man. Okay. So I actually really want to read through all of John 15. It's just, man, it's just so relevant. There's so much in John that's so relevant to this study, and that's a book that I definitely encourage you to spend some time in. If you really want to learn more about what it means to identify as a child of God, whether you're a believer or not, it's something that we should all try to understand, because if you don't have a relationship with God, I mean, wouldn't you want to know what you're missing out on? And then you can make the decision, you know, if that would be better for you, or just stay where you are. You know, I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm not here to judge anybody. I just want to share the truth with people as far as I understand, as far as God has revealed to me and is guiding me to share. And I just encourage that everybody seek the truth for themselves, right? It's so important, whether you are a believer or not. It's so important to seek the truth. So, I mean, what can it hurt? What can it hurt to seek the truth? Make sure that wherever you're at is the right way for you, right? I just encourage you to seek that truth, seek the clarity, seek to understand, and make that decision for yourself. So here we will do our best to share the truth as far as God reveals to us and encourages us to share. So with that said, we're going to jump into John chapter 15. Okay, and like I said, we're reading in the NLT translation. And again, if you're not familiar with like different translations, we actually, on our website, you can do !blog, or in the panels, you can see the blog panel. And go to our website, go to the Bible FAQ page, and there's links to different we did studies on a variety of different translations. So if you want to read about the different translations, why the heck are there so many different translations? Where do they come from? Like, what's the deal? We did studies on those. So I would love for you to check that out as well and kind of see, like, maybe there's a different translation that might speak to you better, or maybe there's a one that is especially right up your alley for whatever reason. There's all different kinds of translations. It's kind of crazy, but it's really cool. So NLT is what we're doing today, okay? So John chapter 15. I am the true grapevine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit, and he prunes the branches that do not bear fruit. Excuse me. And he will prune the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. Okay, hold on just a second for that. First of all, what the heck? We're talking about branches. Okay, so Jesus is the vine, right? God is the gardener. He's the one out there pruning and priming and making sure everything is healthy, right? So if there is somebody who is not bearing fruit in this world, if there's somebody who is not, if you're not spreading light, if you're not spreading truth and love, God's going to prune you. He's going to prune you. And he's going to, and it even says, he cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit. So he will cut you off. If you are not doing what he's calling you to do, he's going to cut you off that vine, right? Nobody should want that. And he prunes the branches that do bear fruit, so they will produce even more. So even if you are, doing what you're called to do, he's going to keep pruning. He's going to basically, it's like cutting out the impurities, right? He's going to correct you. He's going to point out these things and, hey, you need to fix that. You need to change that. That's not quite right there. Like, let's work on that. And he will prune you so that you are learning and growing even more. He's pruning you so you can grow more and you can produce more fruit and you can share more of his goodness, right? So, yes, pruning is very uncomfortable sometimes, but it's necessary. It's very necessary. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. You have already been pruned and purified by the message I have given you. Remain in me, and I will remain in you. For a branch cannot produce fruit if it is if it is severed from the vine, and you cannot be fruitful unless you remain in me. So again, you can do all things through Christ. When you are a branch on that vine, part of the body of Christ, you will produce fruit. He will prune you and correct you and guide you so that you can produce fruit in this world. But if you're not producing fruit and you're disobedient and you're denying, rejecting, shunning God, he'll cut you off. He'll cut you off, and you don't want that. And then you really won't produce any fruit, right? You won't be sharing good things, truth, his goodness, his grace, if you get cut off because you're being so disobedient. Yes, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me is thrown away like a useless branch and withers. Such branches are gathered into a pile to be burned. Oof. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. And I want to clarify that because context is important, okay? If you are in Christ, if you are focusing on Christ and you have your heart after God and an obedient heart for God, then your wants and desires are going to line up with God's wants and desires. Okay? So I love this because it says, if you remain in me and my word remain in you, okay? So if you abide by his instruction, by his word, by his law, by his provision, his instruction, if you remain faithful to God and you're in line with God, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. Okay? But remember, that's when you're in line with God. When you are remaining true to his word, you're obedient to him. That's not, oh, well, I want this new car and, I can't afford it. But hey, God, I want this new car. Can you help me out? No, that's not in line with God, right? Like, hey, good morning. That's not in line with God, right? Like, God's not just going to be like, boom, there's a new car. Right? No, it doesn't work that way. You need to be in tune with God, in line with God. And when you are in line with God, you're also in line with what he wants for you. And again, remember, another context thing here is that sometimes when he answers prayers, it's not going to be in the way that we expect or we want. Okay? But it's still better. So just understand that if you're praying for something and maybe you got an answer and you're like, but God, that's a terrible answer. Be patient because you know what? it may not be what you think, and it's probably not what you think if that's your first impression, right? If your impression is that, oh, this is terrible, why is this the answer? Hang on tight, because God knows what's best, and he knows how to answer our prayers better than we know how. So he will know what you really want and what you really need, and he will answer with the appropriate answer versus just, oh, I'm just gonna, boom, there's a new car. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, okay? You have to be in tune with God, and that's what this is saying. That's what this is saying, where it says, if you remain in me and my words remain in you, you may ask for anything you want and it will be granted. That's when you're in tune, in line, faithful to God and his word, and obedient to God and his word. And your wants will be his wants, and they will be in tune with him. Okay? I feel like that's one of those verses that just, it gets taken out of context so often. And I just think that it's so important for us to recognize that. And again, I'm stressing this a lot today because I feel like it's just so necessary to just really just throw this out today, is you're going to hear verses throughout your life. You're going to hear verses, and maybe you're somebody who's a just a single verse puller, and you pull a verse and you're like, boom, and you're like, you tout it out and you're like, well, this is da da da, and just skirt. Okay, context is important. If you don't take time to learn the context of any of Scripture, right, let alone just those single little bitties, learn the context, because then you learn what it actually is saying. We live in a culture that loves to quote Scripture to pull it out of context. Oh, I know that verse. I know what that means. That's what this means. And it does not mean that. Learn the context. Learn the culture behind it. Okay, I encourage you to learn more about it. So if you read a verse and you're like, what the heck does that mean? Or you even think, like, right off the bat, oh, that verse on its own, like, that's what that means. I encourage you to just take a step back and be like, you know what, I'm gonna investigate that. I'm gonna investigate that. And just learn more about it to make sure that you are understanding what you're studying and what you're reading, right? Don't just take it at face value. Take it at God's value. Okay? When we're in tune with God, not only will we better know how to pray, but we'll also have our prayers changed to be more aligned with God's actual will for us. Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. And that's exactly what we're saying here. Is that it's again, I'm going to read it one more time. If you remain in me, if you remain faithful to me, right? To God, to Christ. If you remain faithful, right? And my words remain in you. So you are remaining obedient to God's word. You are meditating on God's word, his instruction for you, how to live, how to be, what you should want, what you should desire, what your heart should be after, right? All of these things. If you remain faithful and obedient to that, you are going to be more in tune with God, and your prayers for your wants and desires will be better in tune with God. And that's when he's saying, I'll give you whatever you want when you're in tune with me, when you're in line with me, when I'm your focus, when your heart is after me, right? That's what he's saying. So when you're chasing after the world, or you're stressing about the world, God, fix this, or God, give me that. Like, that's not in tune with God. That's selfish, right? So often it's just so easy for us to get selfish and worry and lose faith or lack faith. We're human. That's what we do, right? But he's saying, when you are in tune with me and you remain in me and my word remains in you and you are obedient to that and you're obedient to me and you're faithful to me, we're in tune and I will bless you. I will bless you. Wait, you mean God isn't a genie in a bottle for me to get whatever I want? No. No. Oh man, if only, right? No, I don't even desire that. I really don't. Because I would just, stuff and money and, worldly things, like as cliche as that sounds, Christian using these big words. No, like for real, that does not buy happiness. It doesn't. You hear all these stories about like, oh man, some of the wealthiest people on the freaking planet, and they are miserable. They are taking their lives because they're so miserable. Like, that's horrifying. No, the only way that you find true satisfaction, true joy, happiness is through Christ and through that relationship. That's the only way that you are going to find peace, that you will find rest for your soul, that you will be satisfied in this never satisfied world, is when you come to Him. It's the only, exactly, real joy only comes from the joy giver. Exactly. And I mean, it sounds crazy to somebody who is not a believer, who is somebody who does not have faith, who does not have that relationship. This sounds crazy. And you want it sounded crazy to me before I came into this relationship with God. Totally crazy. Like, you guys are nuts. You're totally making this up because it sounds so nice and you want me to just come join your cult. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And I get it. And I know that that's where non-believers, if you're not in that relationship, I know that that's where you come from. I was there. But you know what? As soon as I finally got to the point where I had no other choice but to just trust God. That was all I had left. Trust God. That is the point that I got to. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did. I am so glad I did. I am stubborn. And it took a lot for me to just finally give in to God. But man, I'm so glad I did because it changed everything for me. Everything for me. And now I am a child of God. And that is my identity. And that's what we're talking about, right? That's what we're talking about is you take on that identity as a child of God and it changes everything. Oh my goodness. It's just such a beautiful thing. And again, if you missed our study yesterday, oh man, I encourage you to check out the post. It's in the channel. You can check that out, or exclamation blog. And we did a Bible study devotional, and we jump into it on Wednesdays. I just encourage you to check that out. We're just kind of touching the surface of what does it mean to be a child of God. And then we're just continuing that today. So, man, we're in John 15. Again, let's pick back up here. When you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples. This brings great glory to my Father. I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love. Just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in His love. Again, context, guys. Context. You don't just take one verse for what it is. He's explaining. He's explaining each bit of what he's talking about here, okay? Ugh. I just want to read that part again. I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father's commandments and remain in His love. When you obey my commandments, you remain in my love. When you are obedient, when you walk with Him, you walk in the path He's made for you. You remain in His love. You remain in Him, right? And that is when you're in tune, right? That's when you're walking to the same beat. Okay? I have told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. What did we just say? Real joy only comes from the joy giver. Oh, yes. I have told you these things so that you will be filled with my joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you slaves because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends, since I have told you everything my Father told me. Oh, okay. See, there's a difference between God loving us and us remaining in his love. Yes, thank you. I think that while God will always continue to love his children, we can step outside of the blessing and approval of that love and rob ourselves of the benefits of that loving relationship. Exactly. Thank you. Very important input there. That's very, very true. God will always love us. No matter how far away from him we go, God will always love us. But again, as you clarified, absolutely, when you step outside, when you choose to step outside of that relationship and walk away, right? You're pushing all that blessing to the side. So when you're remaining in his love, you're remaining in that care, in that blessed relationship. You're remaining in the safety of that relationship, the provision of that relationship, right? So that's really what I see as remaining in love, and I feel like that's kind of what we're saying here, right? You remain in his love when you're obedient and you're walking to the same beat, and he can provide for you, right? Because you're being obedient to him. But when you step outside that, you're pushing all that away. You're stepping away from his provision, from his blessings, from his safety, right? You're stepping away from that. Sorry, I've got a fan blowing and it's like blowing hair in my face. And I love that. We can step outside of the blessing and approval of that love and rob ourselves of the benefits of that loving relationship. Very well put. Very well put. Let's see. And then here it's saying, in regards to love, right? Talking about love and joy. God says, hey, my love has laid out blessings on this path. Yes! And we often say, nah, God, I'm going to take this exit right here. Exactly! Oh my gosh, I love that. That's so accurate. That's so accurate. He's just got this path paved with love and blessings, and he wants you to just walk on it. This is where you need to stay, right? Like, just trust me. You may not be able to see what's ahead. You may not be able to see that next stepping stone, but hey, guess what? Guess what's there? Guess what's there? There's a blessing there. Let me bless you. Oh no, I'm gonna go off this way. I don't know what's over there. It doesn't look too good from here. So we're just gonna hop off over here. How often do we do that? All the time, right? All the time. Remain in him. Remain in his love. Remain on his path. Remain obedient to him. And man, he will bless you more than you could ever imagine. I can attest to that. Holy cow. Whew. Whew. I'll tell you. Okay. So I want to jump back here. Oh, sorry. So again, it says, oh, excuse me. This is my commandment. Remember, obey his commands, right? This is my commandment. Oh, excuse me. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. Again, context. Keep going. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. Does that mean, go sacrifice yourself? No. But that does mean serve others. That does mean love others. That does mean don't be selfish. That does mean that if you, oh man, this week, one of the biggest things that we've been talking about is being rejected, being trolled, being shunned, being completely rejected, right? The world will have a lot to say about your walk with Christ. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But you know what? So be it. And you know what? There's going to be people that you care about that are also going to totally not understand or not respect even your relationship with him. So be it. so be it. You keep on that walk, and you keep serving God, and you keep walking with Christ, and you hold on to those commands, and you live it out. You just love people. Love people. Oh my gosh, I've got the radio on in the background, and guess what song is playing? This is just too funny. Oh man, it's like glitching out. Hold on. Love God, love people. That's the song that's playing in the background right now. So as we're talking about this, it's like, love God, love people. And I'm like, how perfect is that? Like, I can't have it on the stream because I'll get banned, but... but I needed some music today, and that's just so perfect. I love it. Goodness, I'm sorry, squirrel. But seriously, we're called to love. We're called to love people. We're called to love each other and not be selfish. And when you love people and you are not selfish, you're living out his commands for you. And Christ, absolutely, he laid down his life for us so that we could have a relationship with him, so that we could know what true love really is, what real God love is. He sacrificed himself for us. But he put us first. Right? He put his love for us before himself in sacrificing himself. That's some crazy love right there. But that's the love he's calling us to have. And it's just like, it's just mind-blowing when you really think about what he did for us. There's like no words to explain the feels on that. Like it's just incredible. And he's calling us to love each other the same way and love him the same way. That's the most important thing, okay? He's calling us his friends. That means it's a friendship, okay? It's a friendship. That means he laid down his life for us. We should be willing to do the same for him. And I think that's the biggest key right there. Be willing to do the same for him. He did it for you. People today struggle so hard to know what love really is. The Bible says Jesus was our example in all things, and he showed us that love is putting someone else before yourself. Yes, he was an extreme example to lay it out very clearly for us. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it reminds me of our series that our topic on relationships within this series. So if you missed that, I encourage you to look back. We do have a YouTube that has all of our past studies, the main part of our study from our streams on our YouTube, but we also have the blog post. So if you missed any of our previous ones, I encourage you to check that out. We talked about that a lot as well in the relationship series. That, man, if you don't know what love is, or if you're somebody who throws love around, right? Like the word love around. Like, I love this light. I love my microphone. I love streaming. I love these glasses. I don't love these glasses. I love water. I love coffee. I love my phone. I love my phone, right? Like, I don't really love my phone. I love this fan. I love this dog. I love dogs. Right? Like cat people. I love cats. Right? We throw love around. But if you really want to know what love actually is, look to Christ. Look to Jesus. That right there. That right there. You don't know how to live in love and actually love people? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love does not envy. It does not brag. Right? It's not cruel. It doesn't speak meanly about people, to people. It doesn't talk smack, right? Look at our relationship series. I encourage you, look back at that. If you're not sure what love, according to God, is, and a healthy relationship, and relationships not just as in like, oh, I'm so in love with you relationship. No, like, we're in relationship with everybody. If you're not sure what healthy relationships look like, I encourage you to look back at that. Okay? That's essential for what we're talking about today is identity. It's essential when we take on the identity as a child of God. It is vital that we live in healthy relationships, that we be a healthy participant in our relationships. Whatever the other side of that looks like. We're not in control of the other side of a relationship. Remember that. You are not in control of the other side of your relationships, but you are in control of your side. And if you don't know how, if you don't know what God says, let's just be very clear on that. If you don't know what God says about having a healthy relationship, a healthy God-honoring relationship, displaying healthy God-honoring love to people, as we're talking about here, you got some studying to do, friend. You got some studying to do. That's what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Man, we're called to be loving. And when we take on this identity as a child of God, it is essential that we live that identity. And that identity very much includes being loving to others and having those healthy, loving relationships that honor God. In fact, I think that's really one of the biggest parts of this identity is love. When you take on that identity as a child of God, you display love, God-honoring love. Not what our culture, what our world says about love, because that is broken, okay? That is broken. What God says about love. What God says about love. You love God first, so much that you believe Him, believe in Him, believe what He says, believe who He is, and believe that what He says is true, which means you believe what He says is true, so you obey it. And that's out of love for Him, for what He does for you, what He's done for you, what He does for you, and what He will do for you. Obedience is done in love. And it's part of our identity. It is our identity is to love God, to be a child of God. And we need to live that identity. We need to live that identity. And you know what? Let me just tell you, okay? This has been a big thing this week. If you identify as a child of God and you're not living like it, you are setting a terrible example for those who, A, are following the right steps with Christ, okay? You're setting a bad example for them and really setting a bad example for those who don't know God and don't know the truth. And you are risking setting the wrong example for those who are not yet in relationship with Christ. You're missing opportunities to plant the right seeds, to plant the seeds that God needs you to plant. So if you are not walking right with God, if you are not living out the identity that He calls you to live out, then you are missing out. You are missing out, not just for yourself, like we've talked about a lot, right? You're not just missing out on it yourself. You're missing out on opportunities to bring other people into that blessing. And that hurts. I don't want to miss out on that. I don't want to be the reason somebody doesn't get their seeds planted and doesn't come to Christ as early as they could because I wanted to go off and do my own thing. I didn't want to live the way that God wanted me to live. I don't want to be responsible for that. But I also don't want to miss out for myself. But okay, so if you want to bring it back to yourself, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to miss out on the blessings God has for me. But I don't want to miss out on somebody else being blessed. And your identity, you living out that identity, is crucial to that. Stop telling me that the Bible has do's and don'ts for how to live. I will never stop telling you, but I will do it with love. It's so funny because, like, truly, one of the biggest misconceptions about being a Christian, right, for an outsider looking in, is, well, that's just no fun. There's all these rules, and it just takes all the fun out of life, and I don't want to do that, and I don't want to not do that, right? Like, I don't want to live like that. That's just a bunch of rules. That's just somebody trying to tell me a book, trying to tell me how to live my life. No. Okay? No. That is what our culture says, but that doesn't make it true. I'll tell you what, I have had more fun and joy and enjoyment and satisfaction and healthy love and relationships and just all the good things that you want in life, that everybody wants and craves in their life. I have had all of that more than I could ever imagine since I became a child of God, and I had none of it before. I'm just being honest. For me personally, I had none of it. My life was miserable before I came to Christ. Absolutely horrible. And I'm not just being dramatic. Like, it was bad. It was bad. In all kinds of ways it was bad. I was never satisfied. I was never happy. I was complaining all the time. I was just miserable. Why can't I just be happy? Sound familiar? Why can't I just be happy? I just want to be happy. Well, you know what? Happiness is a choice. First of all, it's a choice. And since I came to God, I have found not just happiness, but joy. True joy and peace, rest, healing that I know without question, I never, ever would have had or found if I hadn't come to God. Ever. I wouldn't have. Because it's only possible through Him. It is only possible through Him. I'll say it again. It's only possible through Him. He's not a fun killer. Trust me, He's a fun giver. He's a fun giver. You may think that the way you're living is fun now, but are you ever going to find satisfaction? Like real satisfaction? Are you really going to find joy, peace? Or are you just always going to be seeking something else? That's exhausting. That's exhausting. Not to mention, the whole eternal aspect of that. But I mean, even just like right now, man, kind of thin. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful time at work. Guys, you gotta take on that identity. You have to. It's our responsibility, but it's also just such an incredible blessing. He said, funny thing about the Christian life is that by automatic logic, it's supposed to be different. Ephesians says we were raised from death to life. Those are two completely opposite states of being or not being. Absolutely. No joke, man. No joke. And Crimson, I see you with that lurk. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for all the good talk. And yes, funny enough, you bring up Ephesians. That's actually where we're headed next. So hang on to your hats. We're going to finish up chapter 15 here in John, and then we're going to hop over to Ephesians chapter 4. Okay, so let me finish this up here. Man, such a good conversation here. Okay. You didn't choose me. I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. This is my command. Love each other. As I choke, I'm sorry. This is vital, right here. You didn't choose me. I chose you. God chose you. Christ chose you. He chose you. He chose to die for you. Because God chose you. And wanted you to be saved. And wanted you to be changed and transformed and brought into His family. He chose you. So as much as we fight Him, yeah, we do fight Him. But He still chooses you. And not only does He choose you, but He appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit. He appointed all of us to go out into the world and plant seeds. And again, if we don't live out this identity that we've been given as a child of God, we are not producing fruit. You may think you're producing fruit for yourself, but that's not the point. We're supposed to go out and produce fruit in others. Serve others. Love others. Bring others into this relationship with Christ. That's what we're called to do. This is my command. Love each other. Continues on, it says, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. The world would love you as one of its own if you belonged to it. But you are no longer part of the world. I chose you to come out of the world, so it hates you. We've been talking about trolling and rejection and hate and hurt. Have you ever been rejected? Have you ever been trolled? Have you ever been shunned? Ever been shut out? Turned away? Wronged because of your faith? You will. You will. If the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. They hated Christ first. Hated Christ first. The world would love you as one of its own if you belong to it, but you are no longer part of the world. When I came into my relationship with God, I was changed immediately. It was weird. It was super weird. I've talked about this a lot lately, but I really was. I was changed completely. It was really, really weird. I didn't necessarily notice it at the time. I can look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a weird, like, sudden change. My friends noticed immediately. Everybody at work noticed immediately. Like, immediately. The next day, they noticed, what is wrong with you? Like, who are you? Like, this is not you. Like, what are you doing? And I immediately had no desire to do the things that I used to do, to live the way that I had been living. I had no desire anymore. Like, it was just gone. It was not there. Even the way that I dressed changed immediately. It was so sudden. And yes, I lost my friends. I lost my friends that I thought were the best friends I ever had. We were going to be friends forever. Like, it was those kinds of friendships, and I lost them. They hated me, and that's an understatement. At least one of them did. Hated me because I had changed so much. They didn't like who I was anymore. I have tough relationships with my family because of my faith. They hate my faith, like, legitimately hate my faith, and they are cruel about it. You know what? The world would love you as one of its own if you belong to it, but you don't anymore. You belong to Christ. You are now a child of God. You don't belong to the world anymore. Your identity is not of the world. You are not a worldly person anymore once you come into that relationship. Don't act like a worldly person when you are a child of God. Don't do it. Don't worry about the world. Don't worry about if they hate you. They hated Jesus and killed him. And you know what? He's calling us to do the same. Lay down your life for him. Give your life over to him in full. If that's what it takes. If that's what it means. That's what it comes to. Okay? I chose you to come out of the world, so it hates you. Do you remember what I told you? A slave is not greater than the master. Since they persecute me naturally, they will persecute you. And if they had listened to me, they would listen to you. They will do all this to you because of me, for they have rejected the one who sent me. They would not be guilty if I had not come and spoken to them. But now they have no excuse for their sin. Anyone who hates me also hates my Father. If I hadn't done such miraculous signs among them that no one else could do, they would not be guilty. But as it is, they have seen everything I did, yet they still hate me and my Father. This fulfills what is written in their scriptures. They hated me without cause. But I will send you the Advocate, the Spirit of truth. He will come to you from the Father and will testify all about me. And you must also testify about me because you have been with me from the beginning of my ministry. We are with Christ. We are with God. We have Christ in us. And and those who have ever heard the truth about God, okay? So this is important, okay? So those who have heard the truth about God, even just a little bit, okay? Even just a little bit. And they continue to live of the world. Then they're wrong. They're in the wrong. Okay? As it puts it, they are guilty, as it says here. They are guilty because they heard the truth and they rejected the truth. So it's important to remember that there's a lot of people out there that have never heard the truth. Have never heard the truth. Okay? And what we are called to do with this identity is go out and proclaim the truth. And find those people that don't know the truth, that have never heard the truth. And even the people who may have heard it and don't believe it, or maybe they just need to hear it again, and again, and again, and again. Maybe they need to see it lived out, okay? Remember that everybody's at a different place in their faith walk. Everybody's at a different place in their journey, in their belief. Everybody is a different place, a different set of stepping stones away from that decision to give their life to Christ. Help them along that journey. Plant that seed. Tell them the truth. I tell you, I can't pinpoint when seeds were planted in my life, but growing up, I knew that there was something more. I knew that there was something better. And when I began to learn the way I was supposed to be living according to Scripture, even before I became a Christian, I felt guilty. And I felt like, I don't know that I believe all this, but I feel like I'm doing something wrong here. And I felt it even before I had that relationship. And eventually I started to investigate. And I made those decisions. And I made the decision to live different. Right? And it's not going to happen right away for everybody. Right? And in every way. There's a lot of things that are really tough to step away from. And I just implore you that if there's somebody in your life that you're like, man, I've told them the truth. They know the truth. They don't want to believe the truth. You know what? Be patient with them as God is patient with you, and patient with them. Be patient. Be loving. Be loving. Be patient. Be kind. Don't talk bad. Don't talk bad. Put Christ on display. Show what that identity really means. Show them that whatever they think they know about having a relationship with God is wrong. It's wrong. They're wrong. But do it lovingly and encourage them to come to God and be made right with God. And a lot of times, encouraging people to make a change in their life is by seeing that you are different. Seeing that not only are you different, from your old self, but you are different in the way that you are living out what it actually means to be a child of God. There's a lot of bad examples out there. Let's face it. There's a lot of bad examples. There's a lot of people that claim to be a Christian and they don't live it. They don't live it. I'm not here to point fingers or, call people out or anything like that, but let's just be real. False teachings is a real thing. False prophets is a real thing. It's very true that people will, there are people that claim to be Christians and do not live like it, and that's a terrible example. But when people see us put on that identity for what it is and live it out for what it's meant to be, it can make such tidal waves of difference. We need to be that example. We need to live out that identity for what it really is. We have to. We have to, not just for ourselves. We are immensely blessed when we do live out what God calls us to live out, how God calls us to live out, but we also get to be a blessing to others and bring more people into the family. And that can change everything. That's our responsibility. That is our calling. In whatever special way God has called you to do that, that is the mission, to bring more people to Him. How are you going to do that if you're not living it out yourself? So with that, we're going to hop over to Ephesians chapter 4. I would love to hear anybody who's hanging out, lurking, what have you. Feel free to chime in at any time, guys. If you have verses to share, you have questions, comments, input, whatever the case may be, I just encourage you to please share. We're going to hop over to Ephesians chapter 6, okay? I'm using not my usual Bible, and the size of it is very different, so I'm having a hard time finding exactly where I'm going here. There we go. I know I was close to it. It's just Galatians, Ephesians. There we go. Okay. So we're going to be in Ephesians is one of those books. We've come to Ephesians a lot. Like, it's just kind of come up just kind of organically a few times this week. And I just encourage you that if you are not familiar with the book of Ephesians, like, I encourage you, get familiar top to bottom. But particularly chapter 6 is absolutely vital for those who are in a relationship with God. If you are not familiar with the armor of God, I just encourage you. We talked about this the other day, that every day before I stream, before I hit start, I was talking about, you just put on the armor of God. And if you don't know what that means, check out Ephesians chapter 6. I really, really encourage you. If you are of faith, put on that armor every single day. Every single day. But today we're going to spend some time. Man, I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I just want to go through so much more of it than I had planned, but we'll just see where God's guiding us here. It's just, so good, guys. Ephesians, so good. So good. I can't even begin to tell you. Okay, let's stick to the plan. All right, so we were planning to hop into Ephesians chapter 4, and I'm going to start at verse 17, okay, and then I'm actually going to go into a little bit of chapter 5 as well. So we're going to start at Ephesians chapter 4, verse 17, and go through a bit of chapter 5. We'll see where we end up there, okay? So we're going to start with Ephesians chapter 4, verse 17. With the Lord's authority I say this, live no longer as the Gentiles do, for they are hopelessly confused. Remember, the Gentiles are those that do not obey God. They don't listen to God. Their minds are full of darkness. They wander far from the life God gives because they have closed their minds and hardened their hearts against Him. They have no sense of shame. They live for lustful pleasure and eagerly practice every kind of impurity. But that isn't what you learned about Christ. Since you have heard about Jesus and have learned the truth that comes from Him, throw off your old sinful nature and your former way of life, which is corrupted by lust and deception. Instead, let the Spirit renew your thoughts and attitudes. Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy. So stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbors the truth, for we are all parts of the same body. I don't know why that just hit me, but for some reason this verse just kind of hit me in a weird way. Stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbors the truth. We are all parts of the same body. Okay, so we're all part of the body of Christ, right? And let's say this. And some of you will understand the irony in this, specifically as it relates to me. Would you lie? Is it good to lie about, one of your body parts being injured, being infected, being not doing what it's supposed to do, right? Would you, would you lie and cover it up? Oh, it's fine. It's fine. It's not really injured. It's not really hurt. Or would you take care of it? Would you be honest that there's a problem? Just a thought. Just a thought that I had. Just a thought. And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil. Give your anger to God and trust Him to help you through it. Trust Him to help you through it. If you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands for good, hard work, and then give generously to others in need. Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. I don't know about you, but I feel like that's like one of the hardest things. Thanks for the lurk, disciple. Good to see you. I feel like that's one of the hardest things in our culture is like, I think as time goes on, it gets a lot easier for me to like watch my mouth. And I feel gross when I slip, right? Because I slip. I think we all slip sometimes. And sometimes I slip a lot. But man, it's like, it's hard sometimes to watch your mouth. And not just watch your mouth as in like cussing, but like saying nice things and not being mean to or about somebody or being impatient or, judging somebody. Like, have kind words, helpful words, right? Let your words be helpful and good. Let them be encouragement to those who hear them. And do not bring sorrow to God's Holy Spirit by the way you live. Remember, He has identified you as His own. He has identified you as His own, guaranteeing that you will be saved on the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, harsh words, and slander, as well as all types of evil behavior. Instead, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God, through Christ, has forgiven you. Imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are His dear children. Live a life filled with love, following the example of Christ. He loved us and offered Himself as a sacrifice for us, a pleasing aroma to God. Oh, excuse me. Oh, here we go. Here's the uncomfortable bit. You ready? Let there be no sexual immorality, impurity, or greed among you. Such sins have no place among God's people. Obscene stories, foolish talk, and coarse jokes, these are not for you. Instead, let there be thankfulness to God. You can be sure that no immoral, impure, or greedy person will inherit the kingdom of Christ and of God. For a greedy person is an idolater, worshiping the things of this world. We've talked about that a lot this week as well. What are your idols? What are you worshiping? What are you placing as more important than God? You may not think that you are, but we all do it sometimes. We all need to check ourselves. I bring up coffee a lot. Coffee is now a big part of our Bible study time because I had been placing it as more important in my mornings than my time with God. But now I bring it into my morning Bible study time, spending with God. And half the time it sits there and it gets cold, just like it is right now. But it's setting your priorities. What are you idolizing? What are you placing as significant and more important than God, than your time with God, than your connection with God, your relationship with God. It's probably accidental. You probably don't even realize it's there. But I just encourage you that every once in a while, just check yourself. What are you idolizing? What are you worshiping? It's not just like, oh, my idol, right? Like, that's not great either. But it's things, right? As it says here, worshiping the things of this world. Okay? So, check yourself. Check yourself on that. Don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins. Oh, it's okay. It's alright. That's not a big deal. That's not a big deal. Oh, just say you love football. That's fine. That's fine. It's just a sport. It's just a sport. Are you missing sermons on Sundays because of football? Are you missing church because you'd rather play games? Oh, I'll catch it later. It'll be online. I'll catch it later. I don't need to catch it when it's live. It's fine. You know, no big deal. No big deal. I'd rather go play this game. I told my friend I would go, play this game with them for a little while today, and so I'm gonna go do that, and I'll catch church later, and then what happens? Half the time you don't even catch church. You just let it slip, and it never happens. Especially right now, right? It's so easy to do that. Oh, it'll be online. It'll be online. It doesn't matter. It's all right. No, if it's live, go do it. Right? Bible studies. Are you missing out on Bible study time? Not just like here, right? But like in general, like, are you spending time with God every day? Or are you choosing to spend your time gaming instead? Are you choosing to spend your time, doing another hobby instead? What are you choosing to do and put above your time with God? Where are you putting your money? Are you putting it above serving God? Or are you choosing to be generous to God's people? Are you choosing to serve and tithe and give the way that God calls you to give? Or are you going and blowing all your money, blowing even maybe more than you have on worldly things? God knows, and He will check you and encourage you to check yourself and correct that behavior so that He is the priority. And again, this identity is a lifestyle choice. Choose to live the lifestyle of a child of God. And that means God comes first, always. Don't have idols. Do not put things of this world above Him. Don't put yourself above Him. Don't put your wants and desires above Him and His path for you. Be obedient to Him first. Okay? Don't be fooled by those who try to excuse these sins, for the anger of God will fall on all who disobey Him. Don't participate in the things these people do, for once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. This light will produce what is good and right. And if something in your life is not producing what is good and right, then it is not from God. That is a selfish desire right there, okay? Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. Call it out. Call it out. Call it what it is. That is not okay. I am not participating in that. We talked yesterday about how there's guilds. I play ESO, as I think most of you, if not all of you, know. And there's guilds that I've lovingly, graciously, I have called it out. I've let the guildmaster know, hey, I'm choosing to step away from this guild because the conversations that happen here I don't want to be a part of that. Like, this is not a good environment for me. I can't do it. Like, this is so outside of what I am okay with being a part of. I need to step away. And I let them know, hey, I'm leaving, and this is why. And you know what happened? I didn't get shunned. I actually expected, like, oh, sorry, like, get lost. No. They responded with kindness and with love. And I ended up getting an apology from one of the people that was not, like, they were, like, the key player in it. I got an apology from them. And a commitment to changing that behavior in that setting, at least. And the guildmaster committed to trying to make it safer, making it cleaner, and it's become a totally different, I mean, yeah, there's still kind of some rough people, rough around the edges, right? That's okay, that's the internet, right? It's gonna happen, and it's people, we're people, it's gonna happen. But oh my gosh, like, the atmosphere is so much different now. I don't mind. I like to participate with them now. It's because I stood up and I said, that's not right. I don't want to be part of that. That's not right. And I did it lovingly. And I did it in a kind way that wasn't like, oh my gosh, you guys are trash. Like, I cannot even be a part of this. Like, that's awful. That's disgusting. Like, nobody should ever be a part of this guild because you guys are terrible. Like, how often do we find ourselves just totally putting people on blast? Like, don't be friends with that person. They're terrible. Don't do that. Be loving. Be kind. Hold them accountable, but also remember that if they're not a follower of Christ, you can't hold them to the same standard. If they're a follower of Christ, absolutely you hold them to that standard. That child of God identity, that that way of living that we are all called to live and to be and to do. But if they're not a child of God, you got to remember they are not held to that standard. But you have an opportunity to share the truth lovingly, appropriately, right? Let God lead you in that, guide you in that, but don't shy away from it. Okay? So I love this. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. It is shameful even to talk about the things that ungodly people do in secret. But their evil intentions will be exposed when the light shines on them. For the light makes everything visible. This is why it is said, awake, O sleeper, rise up from the dead, and Christ will give you light. So be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Don't be drunk with wine because that will ruin your life. Instead, be filled with the Holy Spirit. Singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs among yourselves and making music to the Lord in your hearts. And give thanks for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Guys, this identity is a way of life. This identity as a child of God, a follower of Christ, a Christian, whatever you want to call it, okay? It's an identity, and it's a way of life. It is a way of life. And we have responsibilities within this identity, within this way of life, that we're called to live out. And if you are not living it out the way that God is calling you to, I just encourage you to bring it to God and heed his guidance. And hold each other accountable. Hold each other accountable. Because when we aren't held accountable, when we stray, when we don't do what God calls on us to do, we miss opportunities to plant seeds and to bring others into this relationship with God that we know is an amazing thing. But not everybody knows that. And we have an opportunity to shine that light, to shine that truth into the lives of other people. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. So it's a lifestyle choice. It's a choice, and it's a way of life. It is not just a name tag. It is not just a title. It isn't something just shiny to flash around. It is a way of life. It is you choose to follow God's commandments and choose to live as Christ. And that is the identity as a child of God.